So Persona 4 Revival was on the way, and I'm very excited as I recently finished Persona 4 Golden, and so there are a lot of things in my head that I really want to see change from Persona 4 Golden to the new remake. Now, of course, there are going to be some obvious things that will be stated, so I'll quickly get them out the way, which is going to be the updated UI, the updated graphics, the traditional one more system that the modern games brought, such as Persona 5, so we're going to have baton passing, maybe something equivalent to Theurgies in Persona 3 Reload, and just a modern gameplay changes that most modern remakes from ATLUS are implementing into their games. Now, this video is going to be pretty subjective by nature, so if you guys are interested in discussing this type of stuff about your differing opinions, then feel free to leave a comment, but please be respectful about it because I know some people get a little bit disrespectful, so just be respectful about the comments. And yeah, let's get right into the discussion. Now, one of the changes that I'm really excited for, and I'm really welcome to all future Megaten games, is fully voiced social links or just fully voiced interactions, because Persona 3 Reload introduced this, and this brought a lot more immersion into the social links because, one, I'm not really the biggest fan of Persona 3's entire social links because some of them are a little bit odd, and that's how the story's supposed to go, but them being fully voiced added a lot more depth to the characters that I didn't think I would get. And so having the fully voiced social links is going to, one, improve, get the voice actors a lot more money, first of all, and then also improve just the quality of the social links, because some things are just so much better said with an actual voice than just reading it. And so being able to interpret things differently, being able to hear the tone in their voice, the sadness, the happiness, everything that happens within Persona 4 social links, having that fully voiced is going to be absolutely amazing. And to add on top of this, I do want the linked episodes to come back for Persona 4 Revival, because Persona 3 Reload did a very good job when it came to the linked episodes, especially with Junpei and a lot of the other male characters, the male party members. The linked episodes allowed for a lot more growth that couldn't be done within the main story arcs or within social links themselves. So like, instead of having a whole social link dedicated to a character, you can build them alongside with this main story. So linked episodes are a really great thing in my opinion, and I think they should bring them back because that is a very welcome addition. It adds a lot more story, a lot more depth, and if they do want to go on the gameplay side of the linked episodes, they can do similar things that they did with Persona 3 Reload and give additional benefits for completing the linked episodes for either the male, female party members, or even just the entire cast as a whole. I don't think that linked episodes should be strictly for the male party members. I think linked episodes could be for everybody, the main cast, especially Marie, which is a next thing I will get into, is Marie's implementation into the game, because Marie wasn't very well implemented into Persona 4 Golden at all. I'm not gonna lie, Marie felt very forced in my opinion in Persona 4 Golden. It kind of felt like she wasn't really involved in the main story kind of at all. She sat in the Velvet Room the entire game, and I understand that she's supposed to be side content or additional content, but I do think that if they do implement her into the story similar to how they did Sumire and Maruki, but don't shove them in our face, don't shove Marie in our face. I don't want that, but I do want them to give Marie a lot more spotlight, because in the original game she just didn't get spotlight at all unless you went into the Velvet Room, did the social link, and the social link felt very forced. It was just kind of like all the friends appeared, the entire main cast just appeared out of nowhere when she was a thing. So I do want to see improvement in Marie's implementation, so being able to connect that back to the linked episodes, if they do a linked episode for Marie alongside her social link, I think this will be a very good change and allows for more character building for her and even the rest of the party members. So that's one thing that I'm excited for. Now, the next thing is going to be pretty controversial, but I do want better cutscene direction. Now, I'm not totally against the cutscene direction in the original Persona 4 or even just Persona 4 Golden as a whole, but not only just cutscene direction is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the general vibe of the game, because I think a lot of people can agree that the PS2 version of Persona 4 had a much better environment compared to Persona 4 Golden, because a lot of people in Persona 4 Golden didn't like the entire fog getting cleared up and some of the lighting changes that they made. Now, based off the trailer that we saw, the trailer looks okay. I do think there are a couple changes that I can make, because I do notice some people are complaining that Persona 4 looks too blue. Persona 4 Revival looks a little bit too blue. And based off the trailer, that is kind of true. The lighting looks a little bit off here, so like I said, if they can update the direction and the feel of the game to feel like more of the PS2 version, implement more fog, implement more the dark eeriness that the PS2 version had compared to Golden, then I do think this will be a very welcome change that I know a lot of people will be excited for. Now, the biggest thing and my biggest gripe with Persona 4 is its dungeons. The dungeons are pretty bad in Persona 4 in my opinion. It kind of felt like they were in the middle ground between Palaces and Tartarus, and so I'm not against the idea of the randomly generated dungeons, but I do think I call Persona 4 dungeons hallway simulator because that's just kind of what it is. It feels like a lot of empty space, and the empty space isn't really occupied by that much, and the puzzles, the gimmicks that they try to add on each puzzle floor, it only lasts for one floor with the exception of Marie's dungeon. Marie's dungeon is by far the best dungeon in the game in terms of gimmicks, because I think all dungeons should have a gimmick, whether it be for maybe more than 2 floors. I think it should be maybe the whole dungeon, like how Marie's works, but I do think that we shouldn't have a one puzzle floor or one floor just worth of the gimmick. That's a little bit annoying, because I think Kanji's dungeon is a great example of this, or Risei's dungeon, to where Risei's dungeon, they just kind of turn off the lights and that's it. It's not really a gimmick. It's just kind of, yeah, sure, I can't see what's ahead of me. You can just look on the mini map and it doesn't really matter. So I think that improving the dungeon design, one, they could go 2 ways about this. One of them being going the Persona 5 Royal way and making them into palaces. Now, I'm not against the idea of them handcrafting the dungeons and making their own layouts, making their own puzzles and gimmicks. I would honestly prefer that, but I do think that the randomly generated dungeons is fine. I think the way they have to do it is a little bit different, because some people were able to abuse a lot of the things, like the respawning of chests, people were spamming golden hands and abusing the game and stuff like that. So that's one side of the aspect, but I do want the random generation to be a lot better. I think Tartarus was a really good idea of what they did in Persona 3 Reload. Persona 3 Reload's Tartarus is actually pretty good for what it is randomly generated. Regardless of your opinion on Tartarus, whether you like it or not, I do think that Persona 3 Reload did a really good take on Tartarus, at least for like most of the floors. I would say maybe Block 4 did struggle from the randomly generated stuff because it's just an open space, but the verticality from Block 3, I would like to see that a lot more in Persona 4's dungeons, albeit it be handcrafted or randomly generated. However they want to do it, I do hope that the dungeons feel a lot more fun to explore, because Persona 4's dungeons are honestly pretty much the most boring part of the game, in my opinion. So let me know what you guys think about Persona 4's dungeons, and let's get into the next thing. The next thing that I do want to bring up is the implementation of the last dungeon. Now, I'm not going to go heavily into spoilers because I know a lot of you guys have not played the game. I don't know why you're watching this video, but for those who haven't played the game, and just close your ears, I guess. But the last dungeon in Persona 4, in my opinion, is probably one of the worst implemented dungeons in the entire franchise, because I do think that they should have given a little bit more build up to that last dungeon. If you know, I don't think they should be like, hey, one single dialogue choice can have you just miss the dungeon, because it is the most obvious dialogue choice, and not a lot of people are going to figure that out unless you already knew about it beforehand. For example, for me, when I was playing Persona 4 Golden, I already knew about the dungeon ahead of time, so I knew what to do. But for those who are going into the game spoiler free, which I would highly recommend you go into the game spoiler free, then I do think that you guys should be able to know what you're doing without having to look at a guide or without having to do everything else. So the last dungeon can be implemented so much better. Give it a lot more build up, give it maybe like a linked episode to like hint toward the last dungeon. If you know, like I said, if you play the story, you know what I'm talking about. And so yeah, that's about probably the last bit of changes that I can say. Now, lasting this time for real, which is one thing that I do think they could do, is kind of revise the story a little bit. Mainly the beginning parts of the story, there were parts of the story that were pretty lackluster, or there really wasn't that much going on. So I think they can slightly change the direction of the story without changing the overall like theme, feel, and also the plot of the story. Now, I think Persona 3 Reload did a decent job at this. They did kind of change some stuff for the better or for the worse. I think it tells a decent story. So if you can change a lot of the issues and fix a lot of the issues that Persona 4 Golden has within its story and its storytelling, and twist it and improve on it, similar to how Persona 3 Reload kind of did make some changes from Fest, which I know a lot of people don't really like Persona 3 Reload's cutscene direction, but imagine Persona 3 Reload had similar dialogue and cutscene direction as, Persona 3 Fest. Then I think Persona 4 Golden should be the same way. It should take after the PS2 version of the game, give it the same cutscene direction and the same stuff, and I think everything will be good. Now that's about everything that I have to say about Persona 4 Revival. If you guys are interested in, discussing this type of stuff, what type of changes would you guys like to see in the game? Because I'm curious to see what you guys think about it. So let me know in the comment section below. And if you guys enjoy any sort of Megaten content, then feel free to drop a sub on the channel. It'll be so much appreciated as we're on the road to 2K subs. If you guys are interested in joining the Discord community or just the community in general, then feel free to join the Discord server, discord.gg/expresstrain. It'll be linked in the description below for those who want to join. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.